I want to bring on my friend Dr. Ben. Many of you have heard some of his video related stuff, and Ben, you might just share your story from maybe the very beginning. I mean, you were extremely skeptical when we first talked, but when you started doing your research, and just so you guys know, Dr. Ben is he owns a research company that does research. You might even just reference some of that stuff so people know a little bit about that. You've taught at Harvard, you've taught at Yale, you've taught literally thousands and thousands and thousands of doctors. And so, you know, your expertise as you come on here is right, but, documentation beats conversation all day long. And we're really watching some amazing things. I think just story we just heard here is summed up by a lot of the things that your patients and stuff are seeing. So just give a little bit of your history and your background and how you came into this. And then let's just talk about what you're seeing, because you've got a lot of people now that you're documenting what's happening.
Thank you, Brian. First of all, Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope this is a blessed season for you. This is sometimes a stressful season for people. And there's also going to be something about the diet we're going to talk about that has something to do with that. So my story is kind of like most of the people who are on here. A friend called me, asked me to check it out. I was very skeptical, didn't want to, been there, done that, knew all this stuff. And at my age, going into retirement from a lot of stuff I was doing, I just wasn't interested. But as God would have it, I ended up coming to the meeting anyway, went out to Byron's, heard all about this before the product was out here. And my concept of this is, well, this sounds like snake oil. I've seen a lot of these. And if that's the case, I can tell my friend not to worry about it, right? I was well aware of the hops and the mature hops because I've been using that for 15 years in different cases, pretty more on a limited basis, but I was well aware of what it was. And I'm like, I haven't had anybody really lose a lot of weight on hops, right? And so I left the meeting, going home, was talking to God, the Holy Spirit, and I feel like I was instructed to go home and do some additional research, right? And the way we look at research is kind of different within our company. We look at research that's being done, we categorize that research, and then we take all of those, and there's a term that we call, it's called a crossover research, which means that if we can prove a premise on one of the research articles, then what does that then affect after that? And so I went home, spent almost 6 hours researching some of the stuff on it. And I found some of the original research that was done back in the late 40s, early 50s. I tore some of that all apart. I looked at some of the other research that had been done over the 70 years, kind of looking at it from multiple angles. And when I looked at that and realized that this company had finally brought out a component of the product we knew about, but we had no idea what it would do or if it would do. And so when I looked at the hypothesis and the postulations of the different research, and I looked at it in a different point of view, I'm going, I don't think this is so much weight loss as much it's going to be fat burning or fat metabolism, right? And so when I went in and proved into my mind that this was a probability and a great possibility, I went over to the crossover aspect of it and said, okay, well, if that is true, and that was a big if for me at that moment, but if that was true, what else could we postulate or hypothesize that might affect other systems, other diseases? For example, as Tasselli was just talking about a hypothyroidism, gaining 160 pounds over 6 months. Those are conditions that control and operate the neuroendocrine pathway that control weight, control fat storage, all these other factors. So when I finally sat down and said, okay, there might be something here. Maybe I should go back and talk to them about this again, right? And I did. And after I finally was convinced that this is something that God was wanting me to get into, I said, okay, if I were to take this product and bring it into my practice and have my patients or clients get on it, how am I going to measure this? Now, I also am an epigeneticist, and I've been in practice over 40-some years. Functional medicine is my primary aspect that I do. I'm also a chiropractor, also have counseling degrees and psychology degrees, all these other factors. But here's where I'm at is how does this affect the results? So we are, in our healthcare clinic, we are results-based medicine is the way I describe that. If I'm going to initiate something, I should be able to predetermine the potentiation of the results or the outcome of that treatment, of that protocol. And so I've designed protocols for doctors all around the world with that mindset, that mentality. So when I took this product, I said, all right, if this is going to hit the bitter receptors and this is going to start doing all these aspects of it, what can I watch and see and measure? So I can do it with blood work, I can do it with saliva, I can even do it with urine, but those aren't things you're going to do on a weekly basis. Well, urine, I can do that a lot on a weekly basis, but how am I going to measure what happens? So as I sit down and looked at all the different systems that were fat regulated, fat based, and I said, all right, I'm going to watch what happens. And we designed all these measurements and all the ways that we could see what was happening. And then we went through a whole bunch of, I laid out about 40 different questions and kind of lumped them down into 20 different categories. I said, these are the things I'm going to watch, and these are the things I'm going to measure, and these are the things I'm going to observe and keep track of on all these different people that we start this on, right? And so we did. And all of a sudden, we started getting what I call the freakish results. Now, in my brain, there's two different terms I call freakish. One is freakish, I didn't expect that, or freakish that was way greater than I expected. And then there's the near close to miraculous. And so in the first couple of weeks, I saw some of the freakish results, meaning things like this, you lose 2 pant sizes in 32 days, you're dropping all this weight. I started mine on July 3rd when I got my product. And real quick, like for me, go forward here almost 6 months, I'm down over 25 inches on my body, 3 jean sizes, pant sizes, 2 shirt sizes, and I'm continuing to lose it. Now, there's a thing that we call the selective prioritization of the body, which means the body will change and model itself as it's going through the adaptive acclimatory rate of weight loss or fat loss, right? And since we're really burning fat here, that's going to be the key thing. One of the things that I didn't have enough data, even though I studied the 12, 14, 16, 18-week researches that they had, we knew about what to expect from the weight size. We knew how to break down the subcutaneous adipose tissue, the visceral adipose tissue, the muscle adipose tissue, the bone marrow muscle adipose tissue, the adipose tissue in the lungs, and all these different areas on the body. But that was really on a limited basis, right? Because the research that has been done was real good research, some of the highest caliber research that can be done, what we call the RCT research, but it wasn't long enough for us to have a real good understanding of the longevity of what it was. Now, in the research, I talked about the efficacy and the potency of the MH3, what it actually did, and that it never lost its potency. So that was really good news for me. So I postulated that in probably 3 to 4 months, when I hit those 12, 16 to 18 week timeframes, I'm going to start going into the unknown, right? Because we haven't had any beyond that in the research itself. So let me kind of tell you what I saw. Now let's go through that 3 to 4 months of research or actual application of hundreds of people that I'm watching on this now, right? I have the freakish results where some people get results quick. I've had some people lose 9 pounds in 8 days. That's unusual, right? I've got other people that weren't losing any. And in fact, they gained 8 pounds in the first couple of weeks. That's freakish. Again, that's unusual. But when I started diving into the results I was seeing and the people I was observing and watching and monitoring, I came across what I'm going to call 3 categories of groups, right? One is that we get the freakish, almost miraculous, right, where the body has to deal with something, right? Then we got to the second category, where it took about 4 to 8 weeks before we started seeing some things kick in. And then we got to the third category, which takes about 10 to 12 weeks before the body kicks in. Now, what I did is I went back and I looked at the causation of obesity. And when we talked about in the research that came out in August, that 79.8% of Americans, all right, between the age of 20 and 90 are in one of 4 stages of obesity: pre-obese, obese 1, 2, and then what's called severe or morbid obese. And in my brain, as a functional medicine doc, I'm going, that's called disease or sickness, right? So when I looked at that phase, I said, what's going to happen in the long-term aspect here? Once I get the body kind of go through its cleanup mechanism and we can start making things do what we think it's going to do, right? What's going to be the result? How fast will we lose girth? How fast will we break down these adipose tissues that are in the fat rancidity? And that's what really got intriguing to me. So when I looked at this from the beginning and I had my hypothesis, I had my postulations and potentiations, we didn't have very many people in the product, right? Now let's fast forward 6 months later, right? 30,000 plus people on their product. And I tell people, and we've been saying this for a long time, this is no longer in theory, right? We have thousands and thousands of people that have been on this product and we know these expectations. So as Cecilia and them and Selene were talking about it, the Celine and Celine, when you gals were talking about it, I kept hearing a lot of the things I'm hearing a lot of people say. Their sleep is better, their energy's better, they don't need naps, they're not snoring, they're breathing better. They have the stomach is getting smaller. In other words, they can't eat like they used to eat. And here's the interesting thing: is she was saying that she only has to eat once a day. That's because the body is burning all that stored fuel. And when we look at it, I look at where we are at this time of the world and this time of the year, meaning a lot of people are going through this unhealthy time of eating through the holiday season. And then we're going to turn that corner and come January 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we're going to start making New Year's resolutions to get healthy again, or to lose weight, or to feel better. And we're going to try to do something that has evidently been hard for this body to do. So when I started looking at what this research was showing me and the results that I'm seeing, all of a sudden, now that we're into the 6-month time frame, and I'm seeing that longevity, how the body is continuing to break these things down. And whether we talk about the calories that are being burnt or the fat that's being burnt, the end game is the body is dynamically changing and adapting to what this unique mature hops extract, these bitter acids, do. But here's what we didn't foresee, right? We didn't foresee some of these radical changes that the body was going to go through. We didn't see the miraculous things that were coming in. And yet it's some of these early bird people, and as an epigeneticist, when I look at the DNA, some people are more gifted, if you will, in that DNA world, that it can do it better than others who don't have that unique genome or ability to do that. But it's almost like we're building bridges. So when I look at the people that didn't have the fast results in the first 4 to 8 weeks, or they're the category it took 10 to 12 weeks before it turned on, because now we're far enough to witness that. What we found, according to that research, is those who will stick with it, they're going to speed up. In other words, it's as if the body finally builds the bridge that was missing, and now the body has the ability to do what almost seems like the unthinkable, unfathomable. It's burning all those toxic fats up first. So in the different stages, whether it's class 1, class 2, or class 3 of the obesity phase, there's a lot of different toxins that are in there, right? And when we look at those toxins, as they're burning down, we're seeing past evidences of things that probably set that body off now being handled or burnt up or getting rid of and eradicated out of the body. So people like that have these thyroid issues, specifically hypothyroidism. When I looked at the original research, it was one of the few that they didn't see as many results on because of the dose was low. When we look at the dose that we have within our pHix, it's high enough to override that inability that they didn't have back then. And that is what's pretty phenomenal. And when you take that, the thyroid is responsible for about 80% of all the hormones in the body, and you go back into regulating that and getting that to fix itself, pun intended, to start to fix those things, all of a sudden the body goes back to its God-given ability to repair or to generate that healthy life. When we look at what's called the righting reflex within the body, or Wolff's Law, that law says I want to survive at everything possible, right, to make things in the right way to make it happen. And for me, guys and gals, what I'm seeing is this is turning that phase back on. When I go back up to it hits into the vagal nerve, hits the vagus nerve, hits the all these different things in the parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system, and we're watching all of these changes. I mean, some of them, they are on the miraculous side. As a physician, you're going, how in the world did that happen? So we go chase it back and we find how whatever that was unique in that body, it's cleaning those things back up. So here I am at 6 months into this, and I'm seeing these hundreds and hundreds of people that were seeing so many phenomenal results. And the biggest thing that's happening here, Byron, is that people's lives are changing. And not only is the physical body changing, but the mental part of that body is changing, which means now they think better or think differently better, and they're getting better results. They're making better choices, and they're moving towards health instead of running from sickness and disease. And when I look at this, and here's kind of one of my challenges to people, my challenge is this: between now and next month, when we go through all this, New Year's resolution, getting healthier, getting better, what's the wake-up call? Because when I look at people who are so overweight, 8 out of 10 Americans, right, that it's almost like they don't hurt bad enough to do something, or they're not sick enough to do something. And this is what we see happening this season. People eat like they don't normally eat for 11 months, and they overeat, they overconsume, they get sick, they get too much sugar, the immune system crashes, and now they have a reason to want to get well. Well, guess what we have? We have that reason, right? And we have that tool. I've never had a tool like this in my 40 years of practice, and I've never had a tool like something even close to this give me this much result this fast. And I'm excited to see what happens this time next year, because we're going to have so many more lives that have been changing. I mean, I myself, I've been in this world almost 68 years, and I've been in the healthcare world for over 40 years, and I'm watching those changes even within my own body. So let alone my other loved ones and everybody else that I'm dealing with. So it's pretty phenomenal. I'm turning it back to you if there's any other questions, sir.
Well, I think just stay here for a second. TK might have a question too as he comes on, but this idea of building a bridge and how that's tied to your DNA, where some people respond faster than others. But when you say building a bridge, it's almost like what I picture that is, okay, I can't get from point A to point B as of yet, and this is helping point A build that bridge where some people are jumping right to point B right out of the gate. Is that
Yeah.
am I understanding that correctly?
So when this breaks down, and what we talk about the metabolability, when it actually breaks down all the building blocks, if there's a weakness to identify where that building block needs to go, it's like it's just sitting there. And all of a sudden, what this turns on in that complete metabolism, and it breaks everything down and it releases it, it's doing something that body, unique body, had never been able to do in theory, right? And all of a sudden, and we'll just say it's in digestibility just for this case, all of a sudden they're digesting things they could never digest before, and therefore they could never use that as a building block. And now this is digesting it, and now it releases it, and the body goes, oh, I've been needing one of those. I know exactly where to go build that bridge. And over time, the longer they continue taking this is actually going to help what you're already consuming. It doesn't build the building blocks. It takes what you're already consuming and breaks it down so that the God-given ability in that body says, I need that building block here, whether it's muscle, whether it's arterial, whether it's blood. And if I even get into the propitiation stem cells, which is a unique thing down inside here, and we turn that on, that's part of the bone adipose tissue, and we're actually building blood. There's a few of my cases I've been watching the production centers of white blood cells and red blood cells, and then even immunoglobulin cells, which are the actual stem cell results of the stem cells. And I'm watching those grow in 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And majority of that takes 60 to 90 days to create anyway. And all of a sudden, we're seeing that phase turn back on. I never expected to see that, right, when we first started on this 6 months ago. But that's what the results are showing me. All of a sudden, people are getting healthier and, in theory, younger.
Yeah, and the people that you're monitoring, I mean, they're taking. There's all kinds of different checkpoints. It's not just the physical and what they're saying. You're seeing this on their numbers, whether it's tied to blood work or urine, or whatever it might be. Am I understanding
Correct.
what you're saying?
Correct. Even stool cultures that we do, the stool analysis, we're able to watch and monitor the inside of the gut changing as well. And that's the interesting thing about it. When we look at how you break down your short chain, medium chain, long chain, and short chain fatty acids, and we're watching that phase remodel, right? For example, medium chain fatty acids, most people think of like coconut oil, right? That has to break down the jejunum, or the middle section of that small intestine. And people who have that block missing, or that inability to do that, their cholesterol will shoot up, right? And so we can go in there and watch those changes. All of a sudden, it's building that groundwork where it's actually processing it, and we're watching the LDLs drop. Where else does that happen, right? If I go in the liver, I can make it happen. Doesn't happen much in the blood. So it's just watching how this body is dynamically changing over the time, and seeing the results, and being able to go pinpoint and go, I know where that problem was because of what I'm seeing, the results that was produced in that body. And now I go back and see that unwinding. Still part of my hypothesis is that is somehow fixing. And when I do the test and see, I did this test a year ago, I did this test 6 months ago, I'm doing this test now, and I see all those changing, wow, that's the evidence that I see.
PK.
I'm sitting here listening, and obviously we are now the in terms of being on for 6 months, we are the test group, right? There is no other test group, gang. There's nothing to point to in the past about people being on 6 months. We're it. So literally what you're hearing in real time is results, at least from the people that you have, and I don't know how many number that is, Dr. Ben, but it's a hundreds, you said?
Yes.
100. So that's a very fair quantity for a valid test. And so I think, I keep in my mind, as I keep trying to tell the story better and better and better. To me, what this does, it starts the body's journey back to homeostasis, right? Ultimately, optimal regulation of all the different body functions. And none of us got there where we are in our life overnight. None of us are going to get out of it overnight. And this makes a lot of sense to me. And I hope as people listen to this, and to me, this is as important as the early Zooms that we were doing, because none of us have been 6 months on this. And so it's important for people to understand. For me, when I got started on it, I was in for life. I'm taking pHix for life. I believed it. I'm doing it. And, I didn't have many internal issues to deal with. I didn't have any, to be honest, so I didn't expect miraculous, right? I didn't expect it. But that's not the point. The point is what's happening to the masses, what's happening across a broad spectrum of people. And I'm hopeful that through this, many of the people watching, whether live or if this goes out as a recording, this is really, really good, that they can understand that they're co-creating this as well. This is something that we're all going to continue to uncover. And to your point, I mean, I'm thinking a year down the road as well. And, we got to have a bunch of sexy, healthy people is what we're going to have. And so I just hoping that people are grasping what you're saying right now and where they are in the process. And I know some people have come on later, and maybe you guys have been on for a month or two and you're still seeing these dynamic results, but you're talking about health, and it's a big deal in our world. It's about to become a bigger deal in our world. So anyway, I just appreciate everything you shared there, Dr. Ben.
Cool. Byron mentioned something the other day when we were talking about, and I'm at the end of the year, and I always do my reflection at the end of the year, and I'm trying to say, okay, where am I going next year? I've done this in all the different businesses and stuff I've done. And Byron had said something in one of our meetings, and I'm going, that's a good point. So let me relate what it was. We have a dream, we have an ideation, we have something we want to do, and we initiate it, and what do? We hit resistance, which we call that being hard. What's on the other side of hard? Joy, happiness, success. So one of the things I've tried to explain to my patients, my clients, and people, I go, okay, we're going to start in this pathway, and I'm asking for at least a 90 to 120 day commitment, because I know you're going to be one of those three people, and I'm going to figure that one of those three types, and I'll figure that out by the end of 4 months. But here's what I want you to understand. No matter what, you get up every day and you take your tincture or you take your snap and you do it every night. And how hard is that? It's not, but it helps you get through the hard. It makes it to where you get toward that dream of becoming healthier, sexier, whatever term you want to call it. I just like being healthier, which means if I can reduce the inflammation that happens in our world on a daily basis, and this product actually goes through and does that, why wouldn't I take this every day? Right? Even if I didn't have health issues, I'm going, this is a preventive mechanism as well as a pHix mechanism or bridge builder. And those concepts that I'm looking at, as I go through life, 68 years of age, I've experienced a lot of things. I've been paralyzed 6 times. I've had seizures. I've had cancer. I've done all those things. And yet at almost 68 years of age, I'm still here, still healthy and functioning because I choose to go find these tools over all these years. I guess I hear people say, when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you'll quit getting sick and you'll quit getting tired. And either that's a mentality thing or it's a supplemental thing or a dietary habit. It's something. And when people get to that phase and they have their wake-up call, okay, I'm going to go change my life, as Terry just said, for the rest of my life. I am my own doctor. I'm my own health coach. I am in healthcare. If I don't take care of me, who will? If I wear this body out, where am I going to live? Or what quality of life will I have? This gives us a form of the ability to co-create health and wealth, the health in our bodies to help us heal as best as God will allow it to happen. That's what I see in it. And I'm excited for next year to see another year. How many people's lives have been changed?